Most Irish skin types, or most skin types in general, have a kind of a reddy undertone. They're going to have like redness under the eyes, a bluey purpley discoloration under their eyes, or they're going to have tread veins or a little bit of, you know, of a flush in their cheeks. So my preference to foundation is something that has a golden or a yellow kind of undertone. That's going to counteract, again, with anybody you've dealt with colour wheels. So if we had a colour wheel here, which you can get in any of the bookstores or Eason's or anything, the opposite to yellow is red. So yellow will cancel out redness. So therefore, it's not, obviously, and just to clear up as well, all makeup artists have different ways of doing things. I have my way of doing things, somebody else has their way of doing things. Doesn't mean what they're doing is wrong, what I'm doing is right. This is just what works for me and what has worked for me in the past. Okay? So I'm not, if you've heard another way of doing makeup or matching skin tones, that doesn't mean that's wrong. It means it worked for that makeup artist. This is just my experience and what I've learned over the years. So I prefer to use a yellow-based foundation because it tends to kind of counteract the discoloration, the redness in the skin, as opposed to if you're using a more pinky or a reddy foundation. To me, you're just going to get more likely that kind of orange line around the jawline, and obviously red, pink and red on top of red is not going to counteract any discoloration. So that's what works for me. So I just picked this foundation here. It's the Tropical Glow. I'm just going to work it in. What's that?
The mineral foundation.
The mineral foundation, yeah. So I'm just going to work a little bit of that. I always kind of work a little bit on the brush. I don't like too much, so I might just take the excess off. Because the big problem I think that people have is that they put on way too much product on the skin, which can be a really bad idea because then you're trying to blend it away. So the thing is to use, there's somebody at the door.
So I have the question, does it matter which brush you use to put on the back?
Well, I love a kind of a natural foundation brush. You can obviously use the paintbrush types, the one with the kind of synthetic hair. I always, like nearly all of my brushes have natural hair in them. There's an odd one, maybe a concealer brush that's synthetic hair, but my preference is natural hair. And brushes are half the battle. I don't know. I don't think your brush range probably isn't extensive. I don't know.
No,
I don't think so. So what you will see in some of the makeup we're doing today, the brushes are very important. And maybe I'll speak to Jackie. There's certain companies that you can go to get certain, like Japanesque. There's a company she could buy in brushes and sell them on or whatever. So maybe she'll look at doing a more significant range of brushes, which would also help you guys in regards to the application of the makeup as well. So we're just going to start off. I always kind of start off kind of on the jawline, because then you see immediately if the colour is right. So you get an immediate kind of idea of what the colour is going to look like on the skin. And if you're not sure of what colour to pick, maybe pick 3 colours that you think are the right colour. Just get a Q-tip and just do a little job here, here, and here, and you'll see immediately which one blends in the best. So I'm going to just work it in. Tiny amounts. I kind of use circular motions, so you can go back and forth, whatever works for you. And I think it really is important that you use a tiny amount of product. Because you don't want to immediately see like brush streaks of product in the face. That's already, you know, it's gone pear-shaped because you're using too much product. And also you're wasting product as well. And Jackie will be giving out. So again, a little bit on the brush.
Do you think you can use the brush wet?
No. Always have your brush. Well, if it's wet, it's kind of damp from the product, not from water.
Water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's important that, unless you know you've had a quick clean with the brush and with some brush cleanser and it's slightly damp, but definitely not saturated. Have it as dry as possible, because the water and the product will kind of separate and it'll cause the product not to go on, you know, in the right way. So nice kind of light brush strokes. Another thing I notice with people sometimes when they're learning to do makeup, they're holding the brush like a pen or a pencil, or like this, like they're going to write their name or something on their face. So hold the brush kind of slightly more back. You've got a better kind of flow of strokes with the brush as well. You can just close. I always pop a little bit over the eyelids as well. So you kind of already see it's just giving a nice even distribution of kind of the foundation.
It's lovely because it looks very natural.
Natural. And that's what people want. Even though they want coverage, they want it built up over a slow period of time. They don't want it just lashed on and it looks like they're like a dry cream going out to perform on stage. It's not what they want. So just, that's the key thing with foundation, I think, is obviously the right colour, and then the very gentle, very light movement with the brush to apply the product. Any more questions on the foundation? That problems you have, or kind of have I covered that kind of pretty much? Any problems you've had with a customer that in the past that you want to talk about, or no?
So do you put the concealer on then after?
Always after. Let the foundation do as much of the work as possible.
Yeah.
And then you might need too much concealer, because concealer is a little bit more of a heavier consistency as well, so I try and avoid using a lot of concealer. I only use it in the areas you need it. Like in this case, the foundation is nearly doing all the work on the face. Sometimes if somebody has very high colouring in the cheeks, I'd need a bit of concealer with extra coverage to put on the apples of the cheeks or whatever. But under the eyes you'd use a more kind of a pinky concealer because of the bluey purpley discoloration.
What about a primer?
I'm not a huge fan of primers. Obviously if you're selling it, you're a fan of it.
We have
We
a really good
a
primer.
really good primer. Primers I would use. I wouldn't like to use like I wouldn't use like moisturiser then primer and then because you're putting on lots of layers of different products on the skin. I would pick one or the other. If somebody has very dry skin, maybe use a very hydrating moisturiser. If somebody has kind of combination skin, normal skin, maybe try the primer. Or if somebody has very oily skin and the primer has mattifiers in it, use the primer to tone down the oils in the skin. So it has mattifiers in it. So that's a great product for somebody with oily skin. If they want their makeup to last all night, that's a product for them. So if they wouldn't have that kind of skin type, I tend to just put a little bit of moisturiser on. And in some cases, when I'm working with, if I'm doing a shoot or I'm doing a wedding, I would just use nothing on the skin. I'd spray a little bit of maybe of a toner or something over the skin, because you don't want too much product on the skin. You want the product to last all day. I think the mistake people make as well is they load too much product on the skin before the foundation and then it just slides off. So that can be another little tip. You girls, you don't need any paper or anything to write things down. You've all got great memories and all doing well. Yeah?
It's all on here.
Oh, do you all have it all
Yeah,
there, so
we're
it's
going
gone.
to
No,
give
that's
them
fine.
a copy of this.
That's fine. You can have a little recap then.
Yeah.
So how would you your foundation last for the whole day then? Do you have any
By doing exactly what we're doing here, kind of the application, the amount you're using, buffing it in to the skin. The thing where a foundation coming off is that it's when it's not put on properly and it just slides off. It's like when, like every wedding I've done for the last 12 years, the bride always goes, I can't believe it lasted until I went to bed, and even got up the next day it was still there. It's because they usually do their own makeup obviously, but when you get it done professionally, it's how it's put on, the brushes that are used, the way it's blended and buffed, and that's why it lasts. Obviously the product has to be good as well, but which it is.
Phew.
obviously?
So, nice and natural.
Lovely.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Still looks like her own skin.
It does, yeah.
So that's kind of what you're aiming to do. Now, obviously, you're going to have some skin types are going to be a little more problematic. You might have blemishes. That's when you spend a bit more time with the concealer. Also, with a blemish, I would use the concealer. The only time I break the rule, I use my finger, because blemishes are obviously slightly raised, and they're usually red, obviously. So the yellow-based concealer, just kind of dabbing on, and then I just kind of buff with the brush like that, just to kind of buff it in with the foundation. But just, again, little amounts of everything. So what concealer do you have that has a pinky undertone?
We have the,
We
we
have
have
the
the
quad.
corrector for you.
The quad, where is that?
There's
Still
some-
there on the left, top left.
There you go.
No.
There's two shades. There's.
Sorry, Eileen, I'm stubborn.
Don't worry about when you knock into
Oh, go on,
it.
Phil.
There's two. There's a darker one and a lighter one.
Yeah.
So, just-
There's also green and yellow there.
And do you
What
have,
would you
do
use?
you have another concealer apart from this? Do you have like
Yeah, we
individual
have
ones?
actual concealers there.
Just somebody.
They're of the top.
Top right there.
These ones? Ah,
Along
these
there.
ones here as well.
Carl knows pretty much every product in this range. I'm confident. Carl, are you confident?
There's your.
That's. Is that the mineral one? It is. Isn't
Yeah.
It? That's a mineral concealer.
So there's two kind of examples that we can see immediately. One is more golden or yellow, and one is more pinky.
Yeah.
So if somebody had, if you had a lot of redness now, we could pop some of the yellow base just on the apples of the cheeks, which we might just do to show you anyway. Again, just pop a little bit. Now you probably, for hygiene reasons, maybe you need to be using petri dishes. I don't know what
Yeah,
your
we
stuff.
have all.
Yeah, so
disposable
whatever
stuff there.
your procedures are for your hygiene,
Yeah.
then follow them obviously as well.
Very important.
So I'm just going to pop a little bit, just maybe see a tiny bit of redness here.
Yeah.
Pop a little bit on just on the cheek area. Again, you see how little you need to do, and it just causes, it makes you have such like less problems than having loads of product on the face.
So just in the problem area, and then you kind
Just
of
in the problem area,
buffer
everything.
it in with
Just kind of
the-
buffer it in with everything else, exactly.
Right.
And that's more of a synthetic brush, it's not a natural hair brush, just one with concealer.
Can you use it to cover under eye darkness?
Yes, but the pinkier one,
The
the more
one?
pinkier, because if you have the colour wheel again, like the guys, some of the guys are familiar with, the opposite to pink is kind of, or sorry, the opposite to bluey, pinky kind of tones is pinky kind of concealer, pinky kind of colour. Pity we
Do
don't
we
have a
get a
colour
wheel
wheel. You don't have a
like
colour
that?
wheel
We
here, do
have
you?
it.
Oh, do you?
Have we got it? Are we not going to...
No, we don't have a print off of the wheel, but we can get you one.
It's good to have actually for a customer, because the customer going,
Yeah.
oh, why are you doing that, or why are you using
Yeah.
that for? You can physically tell.
No,
them
we
what to
have
do.
the corrector wheel, but he actually means just like the theoretical wheel.
Oh.
Like
Of
the
the
picture
charts, you
of
mean?
yeah.
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 Kind of thing.
Just
We'll get you
we'll
one.
print it.
Will you get one
Yeah.
first? Yeah.
So it's handy to have on the counter. So just put them a little bit on the around the nose area. That can be a little bit red as well. Okay, so that just zapped out any other the redness that might be in there. Got a tissue.
Look gorgeous.
Will you in tomorrow here, Carolina?
Yeah.
No going out tonight with this mix.
Temptation over there.
No showering.
There's the pinky one obviously there. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to mix a tiny bit of the pinky one with the yellow because of Carolina's skin tone, just to have a little bit of the two. Okay, got you to look up to the ceiling. So this time take it right up to the lash line. Again, don't have too much on. So it's important to get it right up to the lash line. I think a mistake people make sometimes as well, they kind of go underneath the eye but not up to the lash line. That's where the discoloration can be most kind of obvious then when you're having it covered. And I always like to have it a slightly lighter shade than the skin tone because it almost looks like there's a light shining on the face. And just close again. A little bit on the eyelid. So it's really colour correcting you're doing. You're not lashing on the makeup basically. You're kind of just counteracting any redness or discoloration in the skin. Makeup again.
And you recommend to put it on with the brush?
Brush, yeah. Try and use brushes for everything as much as possible. From a customer point of view, if you want them coming back, if they go to somewhere down the road, have their makeup done and it's all done with brushes, if you start using your fingers and your hands, they're going to go, oh, I much prefer the hygiene down the road. Okay, so it's very important that you're using your brushes for almost every element of the makeup. In fact, everything apart from maybe the odd blemish. It's quite invasive as well if you're kind of touching someone's face. And as much as they're nearly 100% sure you've washed your hands since you went to the toilet last or whatever, it's still in their mind, do you know what I mean? So it's better that you kind of, you just cover your angles. It's professional, exactly. Okay. Look straight. So that just kind of zapped out any of the discoloration underneath.
Yeah, you can see a big... Yeah.
You can see that? Before and after. And look up again. Close again. So we're kind of doing this first stage of the makeup as in we're looking at Carolina as a beautiful bride.
She may be.
Yeah, someday. Look up again.
This could be a sign, Carolina.
You could meet your husband. Okay? So nice and very natural,
Yeah.
no discoloration.
Yeah. And it also kind of brought light into her eyes.
Yes, exactly. It's just the lightness of using a slightly lighter tone underneath. If you use a darker tone, it's kind of more closing the eyes, so that kind of opens the eyes a little bit. I'm going to use a tiny bit of this colour. This is Antique Beige.
You love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I use that before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I wanted.
I'm going to close again. I like it because it has a mixture of light and dark,
Yeah.
so it's not one kind of block colour.
And I think that's in the mineral range as well. Is that
Yeah,
right?
It
that's
is, it's the big
mineral
mineral powder.
powder.
You know, girls, one of the biggest, and boys, one of the biggest things you can do to get to know this is actually put makeup on and just see what it can do.
Yeah.
And test yourself with brushes and make sure you know which brush for what.
Yeah, kind of.
Repetition. maybe if you come in early in the morning, if there's 2 of you in, you could practice doing each other's makeup before the shop opens.
I've been practicing myself.
Yeah, well, you know, but you'll get much further practicing on another person because it's more like
So
simulation.
it's just nice and
Yeah.
natural, not too much powder either, like a nice amount, but just again, the brushes are all cut, and I'm sure the brushes are the same in Jockey's range,
Yeah.
that they're designed just to take up the amount of product that it needs. So you don't need to dig into products, because you're going to break the hair in the brushes, and you're going to mess up you're going to really kind of break up the product as well. So just like a light swirling action, just very lightly, and you can even knock off the excess.
We
You
have
don't
loose
too much
powder
of it.
there as well.
Loose powder is good as well, obviously. Yeah.
And that's the question, because you have used first liquid foundation and now you're using the powder one.
Mhm.
So is that the procedure, or can you
Again,
just do...
I could, like, the next one I could use, I use the loose powder and different foundation. Do you know what I mean? It's
Right,
just
right, right.
like sometimes there's more of a coverage in there's another foundation there that's quite of a heavy coverage. But you still could put that on quite lightly. Now I would use a more synthetic brush with the heavier consistency foundation than the natural hair brush. But again, there's no reason. I just picked it up and it'll work. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
It's just how it's applied. You know, if it's applied properly, it'll work. Okay, so nice and natural, nice and matte. So it's kind of, she's ready for the day. That's not going to budge.
From a sales point of view, that particular product that Derek just used is a terrific thing to sell because you can tell them it's great for shine. So if you go out at night,
Oil absorption.
oil absorption. So it's a great little pump. The loose powder people tend to use when they're at home.
Oh, yeah, we won't put that in their bag, you
Yeah.
see. That's why you'll tend to sell more compact powders, because, as Jackie said, you stick it in your bag, whereas if you're taking it out in a bar or something that's going everywhere,
Yeah,
it's kind of, no, it's too much
It's not
hassle.
fair.
What people tend to do is they might have a loose powder for home and they'll have a going out powder, which is a good selling point for you. You could have this for home and just for going out,
Yeah.
so you've double sales straight away. So very important as well when you're working with products, or if you have somebody coming in to look at something else and they realise you have a makeup range and say, oh, I might just get a foundation. Very important, especially if you have time to sit them down and say, I have time to pop it on you, and they'll be delighted with that, obviously. So you pick the right colour, you link sell it to a concealer, you link sell it to a powder, you link sell it to a blusher. You could have a 4 or 5 unit sale with one sale, so your sales are straight away already up. So even if they're not going to buy that product or them products, they'll still buy the foundation, write down what the products are, they'll come back and buy the products next week because they realise they need them.
Yeah.
Okay, so always link sell to your products as well. It's very important, and it does work. I've been there for 6 years in MAC on the counter, and people do come back and they do buy the products. So next we're going to do, from that I'm going to do, next we're going to move on to the eyes. I'll do the blusher and all that kind of thing later on. Do you have a brow definer kit, or do you just use eyeshadows, or do you have pencil?
We have 3 different kinds of brow defining.
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
There we go.
Always stand in
Works
some
with the ones.
Right. Where did we put? Yeah, we've got a blonde, taupe, and brown.
Oh, here you go.
Brown in there.
Okay, so we're going to use this brow definer, and it's the taupe wax. Now I'm not so sure about the waxy parts. I personally don't use it, but anyway, you can still sell it if you want. I'm going to use this colour here. I'm going to use a flat liner brush. Now some of the brushes obviously I'm using you don't have. I was just saying, Jackie, as well, your brush range obviously you can add to it if you wanted to, but Japanesque, have you ever heard of that range for brushes? They're, just Google it, Japanesque, they do amazing range, and you could
Personalised.
yeah, you can personalise them and have them in your own
right,
range.
yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
and
sort it.
there's one particular brush which you have to have, and I'll show you, it's from Japanesque, it's this one here, the blending brush,
Okay.
and they'd sell in their millions if
Okay.
you use them on there.
Right,
I'll
we'll
show
get
you,
those.
obviously we should demo it now in a second.
Yeah.
Right, so brows, very important. You want it slightly defined but not overly defined, so you just get through the whole lot. So they also do that brush as well, which is very important. It's a flat synthetic brush, and just kind of dip in. Literally, I always start from the bottom part of the brow, just to give that initial kind of definition there, kind of gives that kind of angular, see it straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're kind of just coming upwards down with the brush stroke, keeping going over to the side. So you're getting that nice structure to the brow. Okay, so every time you can see it's just defining. It's basically what it's doing is you've got beautiful brows already, but it's just kind of just filling in the kind of little gaps.
And giving them a more defined shape.
More defined
as well.
shape and just kind of a bit more dramatic. And they really structure the face as well. They give it a lovely shape.
Would you always use a shadow and a brush, or what would you
I
use?
do.
Pencil?
I don't use pencil, just for my preference. I just found sometimes with pencil it can be a bit bitty and come off and, you know, little bits and whatever. Whereas with eyeshadow, well, I use eyeshadow. This could equally be used as an eyeshadow, this product.
Yeah.
So you can double it up as a selling point as well.
And do you need to use the wax after that, or you?
I
just
wouldn't,
don't?
no. Yeah, do you have a clear brow set? Do you have
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, we have clear.
I'll grab that if someone can grab a
Yeah.
second.
Hope we have something like that.
I think the wax is only
Besides
good
the-
for
yeah, the-
somebody who's going to do theatrical makeup.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great if you want to get rid of your eyebrows altogether. You can put
Block them out,
wax-
exactly.
Yeah. I'm learning there.
Particularly with that shade, it's so light. It obviously is for blocking the brow out. Thank you.
That's a lovely brown there.
Yeah.
Real frame.
Just going to take the excess off the brow gel.
And what do you mean by blocking the brow out with the wax? Literally just.
That would
Making
literally
it
cover the brow, the hair.
concealing.
It's gone completely.
Yeah.
Like it is used, you know,
Yeah,
but
if you're doing stage makeup.
stage makeup or I kind of just slightly brush the brow slightly upwards like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just get that lovely.
That's so much nicer than.
So you can see the difference. It's still kind of subtle, but it's obvious when you put it beside the
When
other
you-
one.
Yeah.
And also with eyebrows, don't get too freaked out by them in regards to some people's eyebrows are slightly more arched than the other person, so I wouldn't necessarily try and match them the same. They're just going to look like they're caught in the headlights. As I would say, they're sisters, not twins, so they can be slightly different shapes and different kind of sizes, so don't get too freaked out by it. Alright.
I have a couple of friends who like to put Vaseline on their eyebrows.
Oh, to give them a bit of a shine, is it?
I have no idea.
My mother used to put Vaseline on her eyelashes because at night because she used to say it helped them grow.
Oh.
So that's an old school trick. I don't know if it works now, but
It worked for them. Mhm. So you see, it just gives that a little bit kind of more shape. Okay.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Sorry, Rena, you're getting loads of shots of my lovely back.
It's alright.
So just comb through again. I quite like the brows slightly combed up. You can have them over if you want.
point of information, that product that Derek is using right now can also be used as a clear mascara.
Yeah, but I actually use that myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it coming in the range there with the guys.
Yeah, it's great. Like if a guy just kind of curls their lashes with a lash curler and stick some of that on,
Yeah.
and then knock off the excess and then comb out the gel, it just gives me a lovely natural kind of finish.
Great tip, girls, if you're trying to impress a guy the next morning.
Yeah, you don't have. Yeah, you don't want to put on no mascara.
Nip in, quick, pinch the cheeks, and I'm telling you, you'll be amazed and ask you to marry him
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Or they'll be asking you to do their brows one or the other. Then you probably should be worried. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do kind of quite a natural, very natural wedding makeup, and then we're going to take it to different stages of progression. You know, from a very natural bride to a bride that likes a bit more definition on the eyes. So what colour will I use now? What surprise will I have here?
90 choices.
Yeah, lots of choice.
Electric blue.
Electric blue, yeah.
Very bridal, I think.
Could be going from underwater theme.
Typically, you go for a nudish eye. wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
like 90% of brides go. They want that kind of very kind of neutral eye, kind of smoky browns, a bit
Yeah.
of gold kind of thing. Is kind of what they generally go for. Let's see now. Well, you can use a bit of this base colour here. It's kind of like a biscuit colour, I see. go from the brow. Do you know the one I'm talking about, guys?
Yeah.
The whole way across.
So you start to work from the eyebrow down.
Yeah, just kind of go from the brow. There's not really any rule. If you can go from the lid up if you want, it's just doesn't really make a difference.
And develop your own style.
You have your own little ways of doing things. So that's your base colour opening in. So it's kind of slightly lighter on the brow bone. It's kind of quite nice. Trying to decide now what we'll use next. I'll use a little bit of this pinky one, this light pink one. And just look straight ahead. Now I tend to work with the eyes open a lot because you can see the client's shape of their eyes. Their eyes are closed. It's kind of hard to see that kind of crease that they have or may have. So if you're looking straight ahead, you start from the outside. That's why this brush is so important. It literally just fits, slots into the socket line and blends over and back. So it's very important to get something like this. So go right in to the bridge of the nose, particularly with the light colour. Sometimes brides are extremely natural, like we're literally going to do a little bit of this, we're going to do a tiny bit of very natural eyeliner, and that will be it, and then we're going to take it to other levels. So that's that. Do you know the colours off by heart, just so we have them in reference on the video?
We have
If you pick them up, there's numbers.
There's
underneath
numbers
them.
directly underneath them. Oh no. Actually, it's
Oh, okay, brilliant. So that's number 40. And that's good. Number 40 and number 112. Kind of press on the lid as well. Opening up. That's a natural hairbrush again. So a couple of blends over and back, right into the bridge of your nose and back out again. So it's very important. Just pass around that brush so everybody can see it.
It has something kind of similar. It's a bit more flat though. What we have.
So a 236 next in the shadows range, nice and matte. We're going to look there straight ahead again. We're starting from the outside.
And always on the crease of the eye, is it?
Yeah. Well, for this particular look it is, yeah.
Right.
So just building up like a triangle to the outer corner of the eye.
It's really giving it depth to the.
It's starting to give some
Yeah.
depth. So it's about kind of layering and blending, a bit of building up, as opposed to going straight in for a darker colour. You want to build from light tones into dark tones, so it's really seamless and very kind of professionally blended. Okay, so you see that? It's really beautiful, very natural. So next, I'm going to go for whatever this colour is, the dark colour in this palette here, dark brown. Close. I'm just going to press along the lash line. just give a little lift under the brow, so you're lifting up the eye slightly, so it gets right into the root of the lash. Hold on now. And get you just glance down. Open your ears and just glance down to the top. Yeah. And just get right into the inner corner as well.
Is it the same if you do a pencil?
I find a pencil is not as perfect, or you won't get it as perfect with that, but if you can, then great. See the way it just kind of lines
have
the
that
eye?
kind of brush.
You don't have a brush like that?
We do.
Well, Jackie might be able to.
We do have that brush.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
It's got yellow hair on top.
We
It's
also
not
have
brown.
pencils to sell as well.
Yeah.
So remember what Derek's doing is looks. And if he were here and he had a pencil to sell, I bet you he'd sell.
Yeah, you can. I'm sure you can get the pencil. You run the pencil along the lash line, but just from
Yeah.
a perfection kind of point of view, just will, and plus you're going to sell a brush and an eyeshadow,
Yeah.
whereas a pencil is going to be less
Sure, it's
expensive
cheaper.
as well. So you can give them the cheaper option. I would show them this and go, but this pencil will do the same thing,
Yeah.
and then
And you can pop it
they
in the
hopefully will
bag
go for the more
weight.
the
You
two
nearly
products.
need both.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for doing your makeup first and then the pencil for touching it up.
And would you always pick it up at the outer corner there, so the way you've
Just
lifted
a
the
little
line
bit.
a little?
It depends on the eye shape as well.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a nice kind of almond eye shape. Somebody has kind of droopy eyelids and different. You have to kind of work with the natural shape of the eye as well. I wouldn't, if somebody has like, is of a certain age and their eyelids are kind of drooping down onto their eyelid, there's no point you kind of lifting it up and doing a whole lot of blending. So what I would do is keep a bit of highlighter on the brow, press the pencil or the eyeshadow along the lash line, and maybe do a bit of smoky underneath, and that would look really effective as a poster, because they're not going to see all of the other work you're doing, and they're not going to be able to do that either. So okay, so you see immediately that opens up the eyes. Okay, just very still very natural. And close again. You hear me clicking the brush as well. I'm always knocking the excess powder off, because you're not going to have loads of product falling down then as well.
What should you do when that happens?
Um,
You know, sometimes you get a little bit of dust or not too
as soon as it happens, get a bit of loose powder on a brush and just lightly scoop away. And I mean really, that's kind of part of the. If you kind of just open again, if you kind of go and you kind of press it into the, it's just going to blend it into the, that it's stuck there. It's literally a tiny bit of powder on the top, and you literally just go like that. So it's actually just taking the surface of the product away.
Oh, it isn't one. Okay.
Like that. Open again. So just a little gentle. So you're almost like you're using the eyelashes as a bed to rest the brush, and just kind of touching along. Open again. So just get you to glance this way, and then get right into the inner corner. Straight out again. And close.
And what is it that you're using then? The eyeshadow?
It's a dark brown eyeshadow.
Right.
This one here. If you don't know if it's sold singly, but that's the colour.
It's there. It's
We sell them singularly, double, or
104 chocolate brown.
All for chocolate brown, so it's a great eyeliner colour, and then obviously doubles up as an eyeshadow as well. Okay, so you can see that loads of mascara on there, a little bit of blush and a bit of lip gloss, the perfect bridal look for a lot of brides, to be honest. A lot of people don't wear that much makeup during the day, apart from people like around here in shops and whatever, we all kind of wear our makeup or whatever, but when you're kind of dealing with maybe brides from the country or whatever, a lot of them don't wear that much makeup, even to the office or whatever, they kind of maybe wear none. So you're trying to encourage them as well, that makeup can be really beautiful and not kind of in your face as well. So we'll just do.
Sorry, but I do go to the supermarket.
So we're going to do a tiny bit of brush next. This one. Okay, just give a nice big smile. Literally on the high point of the apple of the cheek. So notch of flush of colour. Just give a big smile again. So just little. So it's not like a big strip of colour of blusher or It's not 80s, it's just very kind of natural, particularly for a bride. Unless she's going for that 80s look, then that's fine. Big smile again. Literally on the apples, and then just kind of slightly brush back. So again, very easy, very simple. You can just kind of soften it with your other brush a little bit if you want.
What blush did you use there?
I'll show you now. This one?
Oh, okay.
Is
So
there a
like a
name
big
on
curly
it?
kind
There are
of.
loose ones.
The loose ones, I couldn't make my life easier.
And would your preference be to take a...
Oh, are they?
No, actually. Would my preference be?
To take a strong coloured brush and do it really lightly, or take something that's a bit lighter toned and build up a colour?
No,
Doesn't
blush,
matter.
like sometimes like that brush there, that really dark pink one, I'll use on someone else. That can look really nice, just
Yeah.
lightly dusted on. So yeah, the lighter ones are probably easier because there's less chance you're going to turn out like Aunt Sally, but you can use the darker pinks, and they can look very natural as well. So it's just yeah, it's basically the amount of having the brush and the little stroke as well. Is you're not kind of really lashing it on. You're kind of just like a feathering motion. You know, it's not kind of you're pressing it in. It's just like a little dusting and blend. So very natural like that.
They're only smashing open.
Rory, do you need a break from that?
No, I'm good.
Alright.
Let's go to the end of the look.
So
Thanks, though.
I'm just going to use this lipstick. It's called 110 Pink Angel.
Great.
It's a
That's our
beautiful
favourite.
colour, yeah.
Yeah, I was wearing that on Friday night. It was
Brilliant.
brilliant.
Lovely colour.
That's again one of Derek's favourites, because when he's done this before for nights up and done Lyric, the two lipsticks he went for each time was Pink Angel and Posy.
Oh really? Jesus.
Yeah.
Great memory.
So you love those.
I have my types of colours I like.
Posy's my favourite one.
Is that
Posy's
yeah?
beautiful too, yeah. They're my two favourites. For nudie, you know, a natural man.
Okay.
Would it be fair to say, Derek, when you're doing makeup, that if you're going to do a strong eye, you do a light mouth, and if you're going to do a
Yeah,
light
well, if you're doing a really dramatic eye, then I wouldn't go dramatic on the lips. But then at the same time, everything equally balanced can look nice as well, like very toned down. Or equally, you could go quite strong on the lips as well with something like this. Just depends on the girl, really, as well.
I hate that rule. It's making me feel like I'm breaking them. Put it on my face.
Rule to live by.
Going to use a little bit of mint apricot.
That's the most popular one of them as well.
Is it? Yeah.
Good choice.
There you go. Just kind of a little bit, just into the centre of the lip, and then just let it kind of blend out, just to catch the light on the bottom. So would everybody agree that they would be happy if they did a makeup like this on somebody?